It's there. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to day 6.
Day 6. I can't believe we're almost like
Six.
a week into this already.
It's going well. The engagement's really good. Staying high, staying
Mm.
positive. Let's get the comment window open for me, just in case anyone says hello. Excellent. So, welcome to day 6 of 30 Days of Tools. If you're not familiar with the concept, perhaps it's your first time seeing this stream. For the whole of October, Ministry of Testing is running our 30 Days of Testing initiative, and our focus is on tools. What we do is each day we release a challenge to get you talking about tools, talking about the favourite tools, how you like the tools you don't like, how you stay tool aware, how you learn about new tools, and many, many other challenges that I'm not going to ruin because that would ruin the fun. So basically, they're triggered to get you, they're designed to get you talking.
Yeah. Although that said, I'm very much looking forward to next Monday's one and seeing what people do for that one as a
See, even I
as a
can't remember.
vague wishy-washy. I see. I know that one, and I know the 21st one because I've still got to get that one ready. But that one's going to be fun as well.
Excellent. All right, so I'm trying to keep these relatively short and sweet, but it depends what conversations, which way they go. But I'm going to start with having a look at day 6. So, question for day 6 is, how do you stay tool aware? Interesting. So, for context here, tool aware is kind of terminology, not me and Mark like create. That's not the right one. That's not what I'm trying to say here. The way we talk about being tool aware is literally awareness of tools. So the more tools that we know of, we're aware of, not necessarily how we use them. It's not about knowing the tools inside and out. It's just knowing it exists and having a rough idea of what it does.
Yeah, it's about seeing a problem in front of you, whatever that problem being, going, oh, I think this tool might work for me, or that tool might work for me. Just having them sort of in the back of your mind, or maybe stored somewhere as well. So we'll talk about, I guess.
I always go first. Well, I always ask you because
you always ask me. So yeah, go on. You go. You go first.
How do I stay tool aware? So there's a few ways. I would say my main channel is probably Twitter. I follow obviously loads of people on Twitter. I'm not one of these people who. A lot of people like Twitter because they like to be followed. I like Twitter I use it as my information radiator. So I tend to follow everybody. I don't have any criteria. If you follow me, I'm following you back if I'm aware and around to do that. And
why does that sound so aggressive?
If
you follow me, I'm following you.
I will follow you, and I will read your tweets, and I will retweet your tweets, and I will do stuff with them. But yeah, I use Twitter as like an information radiator. So I follow lots of different people, lots of different areas. So not just testers. I follow lots of developers. I follow accounts from actual tools, so things like browsers and tool vendors and companies within the testing space. Obviously, other communities, Ministry of Testing, people like the Guild, Joe Antonio, lots of like things like TAU. So I follow lots of different places because I use Twitter as, like I said, this wall of information that I scroll through, and then I tend to bookmark the things that are of interest, or if I happen to have a minute as I'm there reading, I will open the links and go and have a look at that and basically just bank it.
Question: Do you tend to use lists as well, or is it more of a stream of consciousness sort of thing?
It's more a constant stream. I've got a nice free monitor set up here. I don't struggle too much with context switching, so for me, I kind of probably glancing at Twitter all day long. I use it as my kind of, I'm thinking, oh, Twitter, it doesn't interrupt with my thinking, and then I can easily switch back. So yeah, it's pretty much always there for me.
I couldn't think of anything worse than having Twitter open all day.
So yeah, it's more constantly there. I don't use lists. I have tried to use lists in the past, mainly because Twitter changed some functionality around certain things, but no, predominantly I just keep a stream. And I, for a while, I did have a Zapier integration with Trello. So every time I saved or liked a tweet, it would push it into Trello. But then I've genuinely wanted to like tweets, when people are sharing positive messages and, like awesome things, or you read the odd tweet where that person would just love a love heart boost, from from the community, and like they always ended up in Trello. So then as I was going through Trello, I was like, well, don't need this. So yeah, predominantly Twitter, and then I would say on top of that, obviously the community. So following Slack channels, Ministry of Testing on the club, the blog feed is a great place to see lots of stuff come in there. And yeah, I think that's it. And then the final one I would say is I follow quite a few newsletters. So for example, there's a guy called Umar who does a Chrome DevTools newsletter. So I follow that. I usually subscribe to the tools that I use a lot. So like Charles, and I get their kind of updates and new features, because I think one thing that's kind of not explicit in this challenge is not necessarily being tool aware, but also aware of the new features for the tools you already use. I think that's important, because I think it was Postman actually, some sort of flow thing that they've released that people had just discovered, and Postman haven't seemed to have shared anything, and people are just finding it and sharing it.
They did a little bit, but it was an email, and it was a very lengthy email, and I must admit I sort of got halfway through it, and then I was a bit sort of, I don't really understand this. But like we've talked about this before, I'm not a text-based person. I want to see the code, I want to see the visual stuff like that. But yeah, it's the same sort of thing. Like I've seen it pop up a few times with people talking about it on the community and stuff, and a little bit on Twitter.
So yeah, that's it for me. I would say community, pretty much community, most like 90% community driven. And as I said, the place I'm mostly getting that from is Twitter, Slack, and the Ministry of Testing blog feed. How about yourself?
You tend to tell me the interesting stuff from Twitter, so you're kind of like my search filtering system for Twitter. You're very useful. I think, predominantly it's more conversations. I think that kind of have been a main driver of being tool aware in the last few years. And also, the activities and sort of things that we set through Mott, and the things we do with automation testing. I think predominantly, like setting activities for people to do and actually seeing the interesting way that people solve those problems highlights some interesting tools, which I think it's always really interesting. I find something like Twitter, for me, it's too much. It's too much in my face. And I keep talking, I think that's why I asked about lists, because I keep thinking one day I'll sit down and set up a list. But I think something like that would be really useful, like a curated list of Twitter profiles and stuff like that. That would be incredibly useful to just sort of dip in and dip out, so you're not looking at everything all at once. I keep saying that, but I never will. I think the other thing, again, is, like we've talked before about, like problems before tools, is there's an element of being aware of tools in terms of listing tools, but there's also being aware of looking for tools, having the skill set, like the art of Google, the ability to frame what you're looking for in a way that can be quite effective. So that might be, for example, I might need a proxy, but I'm writing something in JavaScript, or I'm on Linux, and I don't know if Fiddler and Charles work for that. So it's sort of using I know I need a proxy, but I don't know the specific tool. So using certain keywords and things like alternatives and verses, just to see what happens in autosuggest. So like the art of Google, or the art of Ecosia, use Ecosia. Did I say I'm writing a book as well? And I'm just going to bring that up every time.
I need a noise. I need a noise, and I've got to get a noise for this book.
Beep it out or something.
Yeah.
But that sort of thing of not just having a list of tools that are available to me, but knowing how to nice, knowing how to sort of communicate to others, or like to a search engine what it is that I'm looking for. I think it's quite useful as well. Plus, I do have a couple of links as well. So I've got one which has scraped all of the open source tools on GitHub and then categorized them. And that's quite cool to sort of look through that. And that's all been based on what people have tagged their repositories have. It's been organized. So there's some interesting things out there. Look, sometimes as well, it just popped into my head as well. It's just having a little look through the Chrome, whatever it's called now. Chrome, Google keep changing it, but the browser marketplace.
Oh yeah.
And looking at things for that sort of thing as well, and just seeing what sort of interesting bits and pieces exist in that sort of thing. So yeah, almost like window shopping, that sort of thing.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to get at. It's like we said it at the start, but being aware of the tool and not necessarily how it all works. So, one thing I am fortunate is I have a very good memory. So like I can remember most things like just from reading them once or twice, so like they kind of stick in my mind. But I know other people, they keep repositories of tools, keep an Evernote, something like that. I know Ministry of Testing used to keep lists like resource pages, and I know we've got a few initiatives there to try and bring back some of that work, but a bit more community created. But yeah, you mentioned searching, but I think another one that has been really powerful for me and you is the one you hinted at, training, because of the way we teach and we try and go down this, here's a problem, don't care how you solve it. In AIT, in our automation and testing class, we've always get insights into new tools. It's like, right, because we get people to demo what they do, and it's like, well, what have you used? It's like, oh, ABC. What the hell is that? It's like, yeah, this tool's amazing. It's like, what? And like, even there's been times in the class, we shouldn't say this because it's very unprofessional, but where like me or Mark would just suddenly start deep diving into this tool. Just go dive into our keyboard like, ooh, what's this? So I think there's not necessarily everyone's like out there training, but if you are in work and you're running workshops, go talk to your peers, talk to your colleagues, because they've probably using some interesting tools. But let's have a look at the community. So I think we'll alternate if you like, Mark. So I'll kick us off and have a look at Christoph. So Christoph, let's have a look what he's coming up with. So in his company, there's a group of technical testers. He's put that in quotes. Technical testers, and they basically demo new tools to each other, which is kind of cool. Nice internal community going on there.
Yeah.
He tries to remember them in his brain, or he'll fork a tool on GitHub if it's an open source tool. And then he says the best way is basically online communities and having a dedicated group of people interested in the same thing.
Yeah. Then looking at Jazz's reply, I think this is really interesting. So he mentions Tech Radar by ThoughtWorks. So Tech Radar, basically ThoughtWorks compiles something. Is it every quarter? I think it is.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it's every quarter, or maybe every month. I seem to think it's quarter, but it's an email they send out that you can sign up to. But it's basically a document in which their observations, research into trends in software development as a whole. But testing tools get mentioned there. I would say that something like Tech Radar is kind of useful, but I think it is very much slanted towards the automation side of things and DevOps side of things when it comes to sort of testing. So you're never going to see like a new screenshotting tool or like Bug Magnet or something. Like that Bug Magnet probably gets downloaded more times than some of these other things that I mentioned. But it's those smaller things. But I like the fact that he says like building your own Tech Radar. I think that's a very cool idea. Personally, I used to have my own private wiki, and I used to add things in there. And little setup scripts and stuff. So I remember when I first started using Cucumber JVM, and it was a bit fiddly at that point to set up. So I wrote myself a little guide. Nice. But then ultimately my wiki turned into my blog, and then I was too busy for my blog, so I don't know anymore.
That is the best thing to blog about. I think Angie Jones reiterated that message. I think a lot of people share it, but with having such a huge following, when she shared it, a lot of people picked it up. And when you Google to find problems or something, you're trying to nothing comes to mind straight away, and you start digging around. If you solve it, if you publish that as a blog, the next person finds that straight away, and like you're fixing that circle of like people not being able to discover. All my early blogs were all about problems with Selenium that I were able to overcome, and then I remember telling you, I remember searching for a problem, and the number one result was my own blog. And I didn't even notice it was my blog when I clicked on it. When you just get the top 5 results, it's like boom, boom, boom. And I moved to the tab and I was like, oh, that's me. I'm like, idiot. Like, and here's me saying I've got a good memory.
Did it have any code snippets on it that I could use?
I think it did, I think the early ones used to.
Good.
So, Cyprian has got a few things here. So, first thing is he stores most of this in his head, but it's quite interesting with the blogs that he's named. He's actually named company blogs. So, he's listed places like Airbnb, Netflix, Google, Twitter, DAZN, who, but basically, when they share their technical insights into how they do stuff, and they're usually quite in depth and they share most of the tools that they have. Also mentions Twitter, and then mentions lots of podcasts, Developer Tea, Testing Code, Coding Blocks, lots of places there where people talk about different tools.
Cool. Dominic's mention, I think, is very bold. He just says, I don't. If there's something truly revolutionary, I'm sure I'll hear about it. But for the most part, I don't have many options when it comes to tooling. So some of my daily tools are older than I am. Yeah. But I think the point I think he's making is like, and he mentions it in some of the bullet points later, is that things are moving so quickly all the time. And it's like, whenever I think that, I always think about like the JavaScript world, and there's always the new flavor of the month appearing, and sometimes it can be hard to keep up on those things and keep those lists maintained, which I think is a fair point to make. I would query, Dominic, if like actually you do it, but you just don't do it deliberately. So, because he mentions later on, he's like, he has word of mouth, chatting to other testers on Slack and things, and keep a list of tooling in my head. I'd say that is being tool aware. It's just obviously knowing your own limitations and knowing your context and using that as a means to sort of drive what to look for and when, which I think it's good. It's good to have that as a comment, as like a balance, though, is that the point isn't necessarily to just create an exhaustive list of tools. You want to find the things that work for you, but don't fall into the trap of it being too what's the word? Like becoming complacent and stuff.
Excellent. Again, this is why you love, we're emphasising one of the key points, which is getting people chatting and talking, which is why I love 30 days of tools and 30 days of testing focus challenges. So Mickey did an awesome AMA last night. I'm not sure when that will be up on the website, but he did a fantastic AMA on tools.
Yeah, thanks for doing that.
So yeah, he's got a few here, basically reading and hearing about tools, social media, blogs and newsletters, and just generally being active in the community. He writes all his tools down on sticky notes. That must be a massive pile of sticky notes somewhere. Like, do you sort them alphabetically, or is it like my wall of sticky notes here, where there's now, I think, like 3 layers over the original layer of post-it notes? So
we are going to get that online one day.
We are.
Yeah, we will get that online one day.
And then he just basically is talking about how he tries to make time to just give the tools a go at some point, which I know is some of the future challenges. But that helps him, again, save them in memory or on post-it notes.
And then I think it's Anne-Laura. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name. I think that the first point she makes is, I'm not on top of everything that's available, and that's okay. I think the point isn't to know everything. The point is to have a tool belt that works for you and your context. Like I said, the goal isn't trying to know everything, because I think that it's one of those things that it becomes all consuming, and you're no longer being effective with it. But then she mentions, like, I search for a tool when I have an issue, so it's kind of similar to what I was saying about the problems before tools. But I like this. I don't think I need to use it more. My job will be better, easier with it. I think that's a nice distinction as well. Like, highlighting that it's something to help you rather than replace your work. And then mentions like blogs, communities, conversations, some more sort of hard stats like GitHub stars and things like that on repositories when looking for those things as well.
Excellent. I think there's a few we can combine here. That Eswari and Kelly, they seem to be, again, emphasising newsletters, blogs, being active in the community. Which I think, if we actually dig into that a little bit, I think that's just, serendipity aspect of that. So, you're actively building yourself a way of this landing on your doorstep. So, instead of the other way around of I'm going to go look for it, the same with my Twitter. I'm building myself my own little ecosystem for things to land on my desk, as opposed to me doing it more responsively, which is, oh, I need a tool now, let's go search. Which is still, it's still valid. But this way around about, subscribing to newsletters, signing up to events, blogs, news feeds, you're bringing that information to you. But then, of course, you've got to make time to digest it. Otherwise, you end up with this massive backlog of stuff.
I think that's it. Like I say, that digesting part is important. The tool aware aspect. It's not just like I know this thing exists. It's sort of I know it, and I'm sort of I understand at least on a surface level what this thing does and what it can and can't achieve. Yeah,
I think that's it. You've got two things, haven't you? You've got the knowing how to go look if you want to. So knowing there's places to go to discover tools. Or the flip side of having stuff in place for tools to land on your desk, or land on your in your Slack and so forth. So I think that's the interesting difference there. So Andrew's got one that I think is worth pointing out. I think it's similar to Christoph. So she finally mentions that some weeks ago in her company they had tool time. They had a tool time session where a colleague and I demoed some of our favourite tools. Apparently it was fun to prepare and it was also fun to host, and then later on people who weren't sharing started sharing. So just turned into this awesome tool sharing exercise. So I think that's interesting again that people are doing this internally.
It's cool community of practice sort of event you can do as well, like something that turns the focus away from turning every meeting into a therapy session and more let's just look at some cool stuff and see if we can see what works for us. I remember I was introduced to contract testing in a meeting like that. One of the devs came in and showed us it, and it was really good. I found it really interesting and a really good conversation to have as well. And I don't think I would have quite have got on board with it if I'd have sort of just looked at some of the documentation. Yeah. So I think being able to have that conversation around something as well is valuable.
Excellent, and I should actually plug one thing that we are going to work on making it easier. But we are always looking for like little 5-minute, 10-minute demo videos. So if you do record just a quick insight into a tool, we will happily publish that on MOT, and we'll even pay you for your little video. So if any of you at any point want to record a little 5 minutes, here's how you use tool A, B, C. We are always keen to have them, and like I said, we will at some point make that a lot clearer and easier for people to do. But we're always interested. So that's it. If you are not subscribed yet, you can subscribe on that URL that's below me, or kind of in the middle. And we will send you the challenges each day. Otherwise, I'm sure you'll see them on the stream. You'll see them on Twitter, LinkedIn. It's like merging these platforms together now. And if Facebook stays up long enough, you might even see other people sharing them on there as well. But apart from that, I think we're done.
I think we are.
See you tomorrow for challenge day 7.
See you tomorrow for day 7.
Bye-bye.
Bye.